Welcome to Killer Women with your host, best-selling author Danielle Girard. And now, Danielle's next killer woman.
Hello, and welcome to Killer Women Podcast, a proud member of the Authors on the Air global network with more than 4 million listeners. I am your host, suspense author Danielle Girard, and my guest today is Pamela Fagan Hutchins. Pamela is a USA Today best-selling and Amazon all-star mystery thriller suspense author of more than 30 books translated into 10 languages, known for her strong female characters, wild settings, and exciting plots that embrace romance, family, and all the feels. She's also a proud grandmother, you can't believe it to look at her, and the host of the Crime and Wine podcast. Pamela lives out the adventures in her books at a rustic lake camp at Maine's Mooselock Lake and in an off-the-grid lodge on the face of Wyoming's Bighorn Mountains with her husband, sled dogs, and draft horses. She's a very exciting life. Welcome, Pamela.
Hi, Danielle. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being here. So this is really exciting. And my disclaimer, as Pamela and I talked about, is I did not get a chance to read these books. Pamela is releasing three books at one time on January 16th, which will be about 5 days from when you hear this. So you'll be able to get yourself all lined up for that. And it sounds like that she's going to tell us about them. And as she does, I'm going to show you their gorgeous covers. So the first is called Her Silent Bones. Tell us about the series and the story behind this one.
I will. And in the meantime, I got to tell you, my 13-and-a-half-year-old Boston Terrier just walked in and planted himself behind me. So if you hear this like gentle vibration, that would be him. So the Detective Delaney Pace, yeah, he's all for the series. Detective Delaney Pace. This is a series that features a really badass former ice road trucker who is called back to her little Wyoming hometown because her tween, 11-year-old niece is orphaned, and she goes back, takes her old job back at the sheriff's department, not wanting to, and is thrown back into just a maelstrom of small town crime and adventure and big Wyoming settings and adventure. So that's where we start with her.
I love it that she's an ice trucker. That is like, what a job, right?
Well, and you know what? The whole genesis of this series was that I have a friend named Daisy Delaney who was an ice road trucker. And she is so cool that when I started thinking about protagonists that's strong and yet still a feminine woman on top of all of that, I was like, I know exactly what this woman's going to do. She's going to be just like my friend Daisy, and she's going to be an ice road trucker who goes back home, which is what my friend did. And from there, the similarities become just about personality because, of course, Delaney's a trucker. I mean, a detective when she gets back into her old life. But
she was a detective before something went wrong. Well, I'm sure we'll find out in the book. She goes and becomes an ice road trucker, and then she has no choice but to come back. And that ice road trucking is like dangerous business. I mean, here we are in the middle of winter. I don't know what winter's looking like for you guys this year, but we're not having a lot. But I wouldn't long haul trucking in the ice. No way.
It's crazy. And in talking to my friend and doing research to have like the flashbacks to her time on the road and what she learned there and what that brings back to her set of skills, as a Rocky Mountain West crime solver, I was really impressed. I mean, the temperatures they endure and the conditions they drive in, it's just like short lifespan, man.
Yeah. There was like a show about them, wasn't there? Like some ice trucker show.
There was an ice road trucker show, and there was also a reality TV show that streamed on the internet, and my friend was on that show. She's
wow.
She's like probably the prettiest ice road trucker you could have ever imagined, and which made it harher for her, right?
I was going to say, exactly. Of course it did. Of course, yeah, because most of them are probably men, and yeah, exactly. Well, what an incredible story. Well, I want to show these gorgeous covers, and then I want to hear more about all of your books. But here, so her first one is Her Silent Bones, and then we have Her Hidden Grave, and then Her Last Cry,
which looks a lot like last winter, where we had like 25 feet of snow at our house last winter. So the first book in the series, we have Delaney thrown back into her old life where she's got to face the demons, both from her childhood. She witnessed her father's murder, and from running away from all of that as a child that no one wanted when she was in her early 20s. For her, the ice road trucking was really a sanctuary. It was, I'm going to keep moving away from how I feel, and to come back is to face all your yucks. So
Yeah.
she comes
Your yuck.
yeah, she comes back. She becomes the instant mom of an orphaned child, and as soon as she hits the ground, this kind of punk deputy transferred from California shows up. You know those Californians,
Oh,
right?
I tell you, yeah, I was one. I tell you, nobody likes them in Montana and Wyoming. I tell you, you got to keep that zipped up.
My husband has a shirt that says "Don't California my Wyoming," and because we are spending time out here right now in California temporarily for a job, our friends are telling us now, "Don't Wyoming our California."
Yeah, exactly.
But
You
anyway,
could do worse.
yeah, exactly.
Well, tell me, you've always, when we've talked before, both on your podcast and on mine, we've always talked about the fact that you love strong female characters.
Yes.
And talk about that, because obviously you're a mother, you're a writer. I know you have a big family, right? Because you've got a blended family. So tell us about why that you're drawn to that.
I'm drawn to it because I think that that's the kind of daughters I want to raise. That's the kind of women I want to put out there in the world. In fact, I dare say that is the kind of daughters I've raised. They kind of scare me at times. But, when I am drawn to reading women, to writing women, to being with other women, I gravitate towards women that can do for themselves.
Yeah.
They have people in their lives, but they are people there because they want them there. They're not people there because they have to have them there. Right. And so with Delaney, I wanted somebody that was physically capable. In fact, when I first envisioned the series, I wanted her to be a fighter, like a recreational hobbyist fighter. And my publisher was like, no, that's
too much.
Too much. But in my mind, she still has all those skills, and we see her use them when she needs to. In fact,
well, you'd have to have some really good self-defense to be an ice trucker, right? I mean, you'd have to.
You'd have to. I mean, you have a flat tire and it's 80 degrees below zero. You're out there.
My God,
on this
no
side
way.
of the road.
Well, you'd have to be a fighter. I mean, if you were going to be on the road with all those men, you'd have to have some really strong self-defense skills, right?
Some of her best stories are about the men that would troll her and, being in a bar and the things that they would say and do. And you had to stand up for yourself quick and not be known as somebody that was a mark. So some of it I'll save for the books because I used some of her real life stories in there. But yeah, hand-to-hand fighting at times,
Oh my God.
You're in charge of your safety. And I don't ever want to have to go that far, right? I mean, I want to be able to if I have to, but that's not the life I aspire to live. But by gosh, it was fun to write it.
Oh, of course. It's so, well, isn't there something about writing like a fight scene or a woman being physically powerful that's really empowering, right? I mean, because for the most part, we don't have those skills. Thankfully, we don't really need them. And, so for us to get an opportunity to like really beat up a bad guy in a book, I mean, it is sort of the way I work through probably all my, baggage from whatever, all my anger. I just beat up people in books, and it's very satisfying.
Well, and I was writing the ending of the first book, and my editor came back and said, "More fight, make it longer." And I'm like, "Hell yeah!"
I love it.
Okay,
I love
that's fine. Now we're going to chase each other through the forest, and then we're going to have hand-to-hand combat, and we're going to find whatever weapon is on hand, and we're going to use it, and we're going to nearly drink, we're going to nearly die in avalanches, and all of that is so much fun. And to envision it, slow down, feel it step by step. And think about what I do and could I do that? It's fun.
And especially like, where you are, where these books are set and where you live, because it is such a different terrain. We're not talking about dashing down city streets and under bridges or overpasses. We're talking about you're out in the wild, and the people that grew up out in the wild have a little bit of an advantage, I suspect, to those who didn't. But there's a
Exactly.
lot of unknown, right? Like an avalanche is not something you can kind of, I mean, you can't really anticipate it. So,
Exactly. And when I write these books, I think of Wyoming as one of the characters, right? Because it's
hmm,
exerting so much
for sure.
uncertainty and physical force on the things that happen. And you don't have people that can run and help you. Even in law enforcement, you don't have the backup that you have in a city.
Right.
Oftentimes, for a rural deputy, you're out on your own in hundreds of thousands of acres, sometimes no cell signal, and your
Right.
radio's making out. So you got to do it yourself. So she
Ah,
has to.
right. Right. Which is, and then an 11-year-old at home who's, grieving from, becoming an orphan and all these wonderful layers. So much good stuff there. So you're releasing 3 books all at once, which I think is amazing. And you were saying it took about a year and a half to get these written, which is also pretty amazing. And then they want to do it again. It sounds like you're maybe going to do another 3.
Yeah, when you get to the ending of Her Last Cry, there are some wonderful launching points into new threads of old stories as we seem to wrap up some of what I think of as a 3-act, or a 3-story arc in Delaney's life. You
Mm-hmm.
get to the end of the book and you think, okay, maybe we're going to get some satisfaction here, and we do. And then boom, we punch off in a new
Right.
direction. Yeah. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's going to be fun. I can't
Of
wait to dive
course.
back in with her. I love the male lead in the series. He is the, tech savvy guy from California. He's not a wimp. But anybody compared to Delaney compared to Delaney is going to get pushed around a little bit. And so he's
Mm-hmm.
having to really step up and be a strong man beside a strong woman without that becoming toxic masculinity, if you will. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's been really fun to write the two of them and see where that goes as
Well,
well.
your books always have a really, I mean, they always have a really good balance of a strong man and a strong woman. But of course, the strong man who respects the strong woman, which is kind of the ultimate strong man, right? Is the one who isn't, he isn't diminished by his strong partner, which I appreciate very much. So you have written so many books, and in the meantime, you also are writing books in other series. So talk about that a little. What's coming in
Sure.
between these books?
What I have coming out after these 3 will be number 8 in my Patrick Flint series, which is a 1970s Wyoming. Think of it as a family adventure, a family drama adventure mystery series. That's a whole lot of things going on at once, but
That is.
it's kind of what sets it apart from other historical mysteries. And
Mhm.
it's a lot of fun to write. They are true PG books, that
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
appeal to my fans who don't want to see too
Yeah.
much or F word or things like that. Then I've got the second book in my Jen Harrington series, which is it's kind of legal thriller series, and it's again
Interesting.
set in Wyoming. It's contemporary, and it crosses over to the Delaney Pace series at times, as
Mm,
does some of my old series. So I create one world of characters who all
fun.
inhabit the same space and time continuum, and you see them, little Easter eggs popping up in the other
Hmm.
books, and
That's
it's real
fun. So we
fun.
get into your life and or into your world of books, and we are in the world, which is fun because people, everybody loves the series, and I think that's what I remember because I know I read one of the I blurbed, I think, one of the Clint family
The Patrick
books.
Flint books, yeah, you did,
Flint,
and
right,
thank you.
exactly. That's so fun. They were stuck up on a mountain, and I remember being like, "Oh God," but which is, I guess, that's what they probably that happens in books set in Wyoming, not as much in books set in San Francisco and whatnot. But
Exactly.
and then basically, so you will do 2 books, kind of 3 books, 2 books in between. So this is crazy. You're just writing like a book every 4 months, 3 months.
I'm supposed to be. And what happened is that when I did this Delaney Pace series, I write a book, and then at some point that book publishes, and then
Mhm.
maybe I'm working on the other book, but I get the upswing of, yay, we have a release.
Yeah,
But I didn't with these books, and I found myself floundering in the middle. I
yeah.
thought, I'm going to turn in a draft of this, and I'm going to go back to this series and write a part of it, and then I'll do
Mhm.
this, and it was all going to stagger and line up and perfect, right? No, it did not happen that way. I got
Yeah.
I got kind of bogged down in the new rhythm. And
Yeah.
so right now I'm rushing to do these 2 books in between doing the 3 Delaney books. So I turned out not to be as badass as I thought I was going to be on
Well,
series switching.
it's so true. I mean, it's something that we acknowledge. Like, I have a book that I've now been rewriting since the pandemic, and I did have a book out last year, but I will not have a book out this year, which is the first time in, a lot of years. And that is, I'm like, oh God. But there's this, it's like this time when you have to really dig in and dig in and dig in and dig in, and it's not as satisfying as when you dig in and then publish, and then dig in and then publish.
It isn't.
I'm not
And when I
loving it.
said yes to 3, I did not anticipate that would hit me. And by the time I got to the end of the 3rd, I was brain dead. I was
Yeah.
down. I was
Yeah.
unable to start. I mean, I took a few months off, which is very unlike me. So I feel for you. This next year, you won't get that high.
Yeah. I will not get
It's
I'm gonna have to get the high vicariously through all my friends who are publishing like 9 books a year, like you. That's amazing. I mean,
well, they're all
seriously.
saved.
Well,
Thank you.
that is really, really exciting. So basically, you'll probably have about a year and a half gap between these 3 books and the next 3 books, and they will be Delaney books again.
Yes, they will. And yes, that will be about the gap that we have. And I anticipate that we're going to do the same thing with the 3 at a time. It is satisfying for readers to be able to pick up a really binge
Yeah.
worthy, new set of stories with a character. And each of these books is a seat of your pants, serial killers, mysteries
Yeah.
carrying
Yeah.
through, bad guys that reappear. So a whole lot of fun that really carries you through at a breakneck
Yeah.
pace. But it's going to be a wait until the next. Although,
Right.
frankly, when you compare that to the pace of
Yeah.
traditional publishing time immemorial, it's still fairly on par. It won't be that far off schedule.
Oh, in fact, you'll be still ahead of us. I mean, most of us publish at best 1 a year, right? I mean, that's sort of where we are. So, and I feel that. Like, I finished, I just read the new Robert Galbraith, J.K. Rowling. I love that series.
Love that.
And
I
it's,
love that.
it'll be 2 years before we get the next book, and I get it because they're really big books, and she doesn't have to work really. So I don't understand, so
I don't even know how she finds it in her to keep going, honestly, because she doesn't need to. It just shows what a true writer that she is, that
but
it
don't
keeps
you
coming
think,
out there.
I feel that way too, though, don't you think? I don't think I could quit. I mean, even if
Yeah.
I'm like, even if it ends up that, I never quite write the book I want to write, I don't think I'll stop writing. It's just, I find if I, even even when I take a break, which this last year, of course, because of personal circumstances, I did take a break, and it was miserable. Like, I was, it wasn't like I could focus, but it was, I got to do it. It's almost like exercising, like it just makes me feel like me.
Exactly. It's like we didn't get into writing thinking, I'd like to pick a career that I think would check the boxes for something, really conservative, and, I'll have a 401k and no, that's not, you don't
No,
know. You
no,
get into it
no.
because you had a bad habit.
Yeah,
And that habit is that you hide away and write and talk to your imaginary
yeah.
friends.
Yeah, I think it's a compulsion more than a
Hmm.
career, right? It's sort of like, it's just something that you feel like you have to do. And I do think the best stories are from those people who just, they do it whether or not they're being highly paid for it or not, which so few of us are being really highly paid for it, right? But
Let's
it's
be
a,
real. That's the truth.
yeah, but it's a, I wouldn't change it. I mean, there's just something so magical about, like you said, sitting by yourself and having a whole world come out of your brain.
It is. It's complete magic. And it is this feeling of escape that readers get when they read a book. That's
Yeah,
what I get when I tell the story. And
right.
so it's a way to go and be where I want to be, which is with
Yeah,
those people that I love. You love your characters, some of
of
them anyway,
course.
but
Yeah, of course. Well, like your real life too, right? And I think
exactly.
that's why probably most authors are also really big readers, right? Because we love a story, and I love taking, I crawl into bed and think, just, it's like Caligon, take me away. I just want to
Yeah.
go somewhere else for a while, and it's so rewarding. I absolutely love it. Well, and I also noticed, Pamela, that these books are priced so beautifully. So, like, literally, you're gonna people are able to read all 3 books for like the price of a paperback. You know,
Wow.
it's I think the first one is like $3 and then the next two, Uber go back. This is the first one and then the next two are
Mhm.
$4. So it's,
They're
you know,
being
it's
super aggressive with the pricing and wanting to
yeah.
put them in readers' hands. They want there to be no friction between I want that and I'm getting that. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's what people are going to feel is I want them all. I can have them
Yeah.
all.
Right. I mean, that's what happens, right? I mean, you finish a book you love, and if you find out there's a second book from the series available immediately, you're like, I'll download the next two. That's super
Yeah,
exciting. That is super
it
exciting.
is.
Well, I love it. I'm so excited for you, and I've adored your books, so I'm looking forward to digging into them myself. And I know that it'll be like a one night. Each one will be like a one night read because that's how your books are. They're so fast. So
Yeah, if you go to sleep and if you put them down and go to sleep, then I have failed.
well, sometimes we just need to sleep, Pamela. Come on, give us a break. But well,
Well, I appreciate it.
yeah, I'm so excited for you and congratulations. And I look forward to having you back when you got the next three. And I hope it is a massive success. I think that's so exciting. And the fact that you could write three at once or consecutively, you know, without publication, really admirable. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to having you back on Crime and Wine sometime soon.
I
So
would love that. We'll absolutely do that. So we will talk to you later and good luck. Grab the new series from Pamela Fagan Hutchins. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Killer Women 2024. We'll see you next time. Bye.
bye, everyone.